In the heart of the bustling city of Lagos, where the vibrant hues of life contrasted sharply with the shadows of unspoken secrets, stood a grand mansion owned by a man of immense wealth and influence. Chief Adebayo Olamide was a figure of both admiration and envy, known as the Titan of Lagos. His expansive estate was adorned with gardens that seemed to bloom eternally, and rooms filled with treasures that told stories of a life well lived. Yet, beneath the veneer of affluence and success lay a tempest of anxiety that consumed him daily. Chief Adebayo had married Zara, a woman significantly younger than himself, after the tragic death of his first wife, Fatima. Zara, with her radiant smile and youthful spirit, brought joy back into his life. But Adebayo was never free of the haunting memories of Fatima. They had shared dreams, laughter, and the unyielding bond of parenthood that he now longed for again. Their only son, Temitope, a bright and ambitious young man, was the apple of his father's eye, but lately Adebayo felt an unsettling change in the atmosphere of his home. Temitope had always been the perfect son, intelligent, caring, and eager to assist his father in his thriving business empire. Yet, as the days turned into weeks, Adebayo noticed a peculiar shift. Temitope and Zara would often steal away to quiet corners, their hushed whispers and furtive glances igniting a gnawing suspicion in Adebayo's heart. What were they discussing? What secrets could they possibly be sharing that did not include him? The question spiraled in his mind, twisting and knotting around his thoughts. On a night when the air was thick with tension, Adebayo made a decision. He would uncover the truth, no matter the cost. Feigning a serious illness, he informed Zara and Temitope that he needed to stay at the hospital for treatment. This pretense would grant him the time and distance needed to monitor their every move without arousing suspicion. Before he left, Adebayo cleverly installed hidden cameras throughout the house, in every room, from the grand living room to the kitchen, and even the serene garden that Zara loved to tend to. He needed to know what they would do in his absence, what truths lay behind their whispers. In the hospital, Adebayo was treated with utmost care, but the real focus of his attention was the surveillance feeds. He had a private room equipped with a large television where he could observe his family's every move. At first, everything seemed normal. Zara visited daily, bringing fresh flowers and sumptuous meals, her eyes filled with concern. Temitope would sit by his bedside, engaged in light conversation, but Adebayo could sense a veil of secrecy shrouding their interactions. One night, the hushed tones of Zara and Temitope reached his ears through the camera's feed. They were in the living room, speaking with an urgency that made Adebayo's heart race. "We need to be careful, Temitope. If he finds out, we'll be in big trouble," Zara whispered. Temitope, who had always been forthright with his father, responded, "Don't worry, Mother. He trusts us. He'll never know our plan." Adebayo's heart sank. What plan were they discussing? What were they hiding from him? Days passed, and his anxiety mounted. The more he watched, the more he felt a sense of betrayal creeping into his home. One evening, he witnessed Temitope sneaking into his study, a place that was off limits to him. Adebayo's instincts kicked in. He needed to know what his son was up to, so he instructed his most trusted servant, Ayatund, to retrieve whatever Temitope had taken. Ayatund, a loyal woman who had been with the family for decades, agreed without hesitation. That night, Ayatund returned to the hospital with a small envelope that she had found hidden under a loose floorboard in the study. Adebayo's hands trembled as he opened it. The note was short, but the contents ignited a fire of fury within him. "We will proceed with the plan next week. Be ready." Adebayo's mind raced. What plan? Why were they plotting against him? The following day, he witnessed something even more alarming. Zara was conversing with a stranger in the garden, a man dressed in an immaculate dark suit whose presence radiated danger. He seemed to exude an air of authority and spoke to Zara with a tone that suggested familiarity. Adebayo could not hear their conversation, but when the man handed Temitope a small package, every instinct in him screamed that something was terribly wrong. He needed answers. With a heart full of dread, Adebayo called Ayatun again, instructing her to follow the man discreetly. She promised to return with information, and Adebayo waited anxiously. When she finally arrived back at the hospital, her face was pale and her eyes wide with fear. "Chief, it is worse than we thought," she stammered, her voice trembling. "The man you saw with your wife and son is Mr. Obesai, your rival in business. They met in a dark alley after sunset. They're plotting something sinister against you." The revelation struck Adebayo like a thunderbolt. Why would Mr. Obesai, known for his ruthless business tactics, conspire with his family? A surge of emotions coursed through him: anger, betrayal, fear. He was determined to find out the truth, so he continued to watch the cameras even more closely. His anxiety peaked one afternoon when he saw Temitope moving suspiciously around the mansion. With a heavy heart, Adebayo noticed his son sneaking into the basement, a place rarely visited. The hidden camera revealed Temitope opening a secret compartment behind a painting, retrieving a small box. Adebayo zoomed in, desperation coursing through him. Inside the box were various documents and a single piece of jewelry, an intricately designed locket that seemed oddly familiar. Temitope's expression shifted as he read through the contents, a mixture of confusion and fear washing over his face. Adebayo's heart raced. He had to understand what was going on. Days turned into weeks as Adebayo watched his family carefully. Temitope's unease grew, but Zara remained composed, shrouded in a veil of secrecy. Adebayo's heart ached for his son, but he was consumed with the need to protect his legacy. One night, he saw Temitope hiding the locket inside a drawer in his room. Adebayo's instinct screamed at him. He had to know what the locket contained. Determined to get to the bottom of this mystery, Adebayo instructed Ayatun to retrieve the locket and any documents associated with it. When she returned, Adebayo's heart pounded in anticipation. As he opened the locket, a faded photograph slipped out. It was a picture of Zara with a man Adebayo recognized all too well, Mr. Obesai. His blood ran cold. The realization washed over him. Zara had been lying about her past, and Temitope was connected to the very rival he had been trying to protect his family from. Adebayo was now confronted with a heart-wrenching dilemma. Should he confront his family, risking everything, or should he keep watching, gathering more evidence? The next day, Adebayo was visited by his old friend, Dr. Tund, who had come to check on his health. When they met, Adebayo could no longer contain his turmoil. He confided in Dr. Tund, revealing the entire saga: the cameras, the hidden notes, and the shocking discovery of the locket. "This is serious," Dr. Tund said, his brow furrowing with concern. "You need to be careful, Adebayo. Whatever secret Zara is hiding, it could turn dangerous. I suggest we look deeper into Temitope's past. There may be something more at play here." The urgency in Dr. Tund's voice stirred a new resolve in Adebayo. Together, They visited the hospital where Temitope was born. They sifted through old records, and their worst fears were confirmed. Temitope was adopted. Adebayo staggered back, his world spinning. Why had Zara kept this from him? Meanwhile, back at the mansion, Zara and Temitope were becoming increasingly agitated, sensing the walls closing in around them. They met in hushed tones, planning their next move. As Adebayo continued to monitor them, he overheard Zara whispering, "We have to act fast before he finds out. He's becoming too suspicious." Adebayo's heart raced. It was clear they were plotting against him, possibly to secure Temitope's future through nefarious means. He needed to warn Dr. Tun before it was too late. Upon returning to the hospital, Adebayo shared his discoveries with Dr. Tun, who listened intently. "We must confront Zara and Temitope, but we need to be careful," he advised. "If they're truly plotting against you, we'll need evidence to protect ourselves." With a heavy heart, Adebayo returned home that evening, resolve steeling his spine. As he walked through the familiar halls of his mansion, the echoes of laughter that once filled the air now felt hollow. He had to uncover the truth before it was too late. In the days that followed, tensions escalated. Adebayo watched in horror as Zara and Temitope received packages from Mr. Obesai, their conversations growing, darker and more conspiratorial. Each passing moment felt like a countdown to a devastating betrayal. One fateful evening, Adebayo couldn't take it any longer. He confronted them, his voice shaking with a mix of fury and despair. "Zara, Temitope, what are you hiding from me?" The room fell silent, the air thick with the weight of unspoken truths. Zara's face paled, and Temitope's eyes darted around as if searching for an escape. "Father, it's not what you think." Temitope stammered, but Adebayo cut him off. "Enough. I've seen the notes, the packages, and the locket. You've been lying to me. What is your plan?" His voice echoed in the vastness of the room, filled with a sense of impending doom. Tears welled in Zara's eyes as she took a step forward. "Adebayo, please. It's complicated. We were trying to protect you. Mr. Obesai promised us a future without your business ties. He wanted to not take over." A surge of betrayal surged through Adebayo. "You conspired with him? How could you betray me like this?" But Temitope stepped forward, his voice steady. "Father, we were trying to keep you safe. Mr. Obesai wanted to harm you, and we thought if we aligned ourselves with him, we could protect you from his schemes. I never wanted to hurt you." Adebayo's heart shattered as he looked at his son. All this time, he had thought they were betraying him, but they were trying to protect him from a danger he had never even considered. But the pain of their secrecy stung just as deeply. A confrontation erupted, words like daggers slicing through the air as emotions boiled over. Zara pleaded for forgiveness, but Adebayo felt a rift opening between them that could never be mended. The night stretched on, filled with accusations, sorrow, and the realization that their family was unraveling at the seams. In the aftermath of their confrontation, Adebayo was left reeling. The love he had for his family battled against the deep-seated betrayal that threatened to consume him. He found solace in the company of Dr. Tun, who provided a much-needed perspective on the situation. "You must give them a chance to explain, Adebayo. Love doesn't come without flaws," he urged. But how could he? Adebayo found himself at a crossroads, torn between the bond he shared with Zara and Temitope and the bitter taste of betrayal that lingered in his mouth. He needed time to process the revelations that had shattered his perception of his family. Days turned into weeks as Adebayo distanced himself from Zara and Temitope. He threw himself into his business, pouring his energy into projects that would keep him occupied. Yet, every time he returned home, the shadows of betrayal loomed over him, and the silence between them was deafening. Meanwhile, Zara and Temitope were trying to navigate the wreckage they had created. Temitope struggled with guilt over his actions and the pain he had caused his father. He wanted to reconcile, to mend the broken bond, but every attempt felt like an uphill battle. Zara, too, felt the weight of her choices. She had sought to protect her family, but in doing so, she had jeopardized everything they held dear. One stormy night, Adebayo sat alone in his study, the howling winds mirroring the turmoil within him. The sound of raindrops against the window pane became a backdrop to his thoughts as he contemplated the path forward. He knew he had to confront the truth, to either rebuild what was broken or accept that the bonds of trust could never be restored. As he wrestled with his emotions, a knock on the door interrupted his reverie. It was Temitope, his eyes pleading for understanding. "Father, can we talk?" Adebayo sighed, feeling the weight of his decision pressing heavily on his chest. "I don't know, Temitope. Can we really talk? Can we rebuild what has been lost? Please, just hear me out. I'm sorry for everything. I never wanted to hurt you. I thought I was protecting you. I was wrong," Temitope admitted, his voice breaking with emotion. With a heavy heart, Adebayo nodded, gesturing for his son to take a seat. As Temitope poured out his feelings, recounting the fear that had driven him to make those choices, Adebayo felt the walls of resentment slowly beginning to crumble. "I never wanted to be a burden to you, Father. I wanted to make you proud, but in trying to do so, I lost sight of what truly matters, family. I was naive, thinking I could outsmart Mr. Obeisai and protect you at the same time," Temitope said, his voice choked with regret. As the conversation unfolded, Adebayo realized that beneath the pain of betrayal lay a deep-seated love for his son. He could see the sincerity in Temitope's eyes, the remorse that weighed heavily on his shoulders. Perhaps, just perhaps, there was a way to mend what had been broken, but the reconciliation would not be easy. Adebayo needed time to process, to heal, and to find a way to forgive. He understood that trust, once shattered, took time to rebuild. "I can't promise things will be the same, Temitope, but I'm willing to try. We must face this together, as a family," Adebayo replied, his voice steady but laced with vulnerability. With the storm raging outside, they forged a tentative path toward healing. In the days that followed, Adebayo and Temitope worked to rebuild their relationship, each conversation a stepping stone toward understanding. Zara, too, sought redemption, and slowly they began to navigate the complexities of their emotions. As the weeks passed, Adebayo realized that while the scars of betrayal would always linger, the bond of family could not be easily broken. Love was messy, filled with challenges, but it was also a force of healing. In the end, Adebayo understood that the path to reconciliation would not be without its trials, but with patience and understanding, they could emerge stronger. In the quiet moments of reflection, Adebayo found solace in the idea that even amidst betrayal, hope could bloom anew. The mansion that had once felt like a prison began to feel like home again, filled with the laughter and warmth of a family determined to overcome adversity. The shadows of the past still whispered, but they no longer held power over him. Instead, Adebayo embraced the uncertainty of the future, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. together as a family. In the end, the heart of the matter lay in the love they had fought so hard to preserve, a love that, though bruised, would ultimately guide them through the darkness into the light. Adebayo took a deep breath, prepared to embark on this journey of healing and hope, knowing that the road ahead would be long, but filled with possibilities.